Hi, once again, everyone. This is Teacher David, and this is Fast Track to English. Now, this is only my second video podcast, which I think is extremely cool because not only do you see me talking, you also hear me talking as I am telling you a story or talking about something just at random thoughts, ideas, or even English itself. Now, today, what I want to do is I want to talk about our little dog, Symba. 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 Symba's a 14-year-old Yorkie we got in 2008. Now, by a dog's age standard, he really is an old man. So if you go 14 times 7, then you do the math. And that's how dogs are considered to be aged. Well, every dog here is 7 years. So, now the reason I want to talk about Symba is because Symba has been sort of just surviving certain obstacles that have been thrown at him. Just like a lot of things are thrown at us, Symba also has to deal with certain things. Now, I'm not going to try and describe every single year that Symba has been alive. However, I will tell you that in his later years, perhaps maybe 5, 6 years ago, Symba started developing like glaucoma. His right eye was kind of cloudy and shiny. So when we took him to the vet told us that eventually he's probably going to lose that eyesight and he's probably going to have pressure in his eye. So we said, okay, well, we will deal with that. We will cross that bridge when we get to it. So maybe a year or two passed, and Symba's eye was really bulging. And we were very concerned about it because the vet told us that it could burst and it could cause infection and severe pain. So we decided to have the vet, Symba, have surgery to remove his eye. So the day came when Symba had to have his eye removed. So we were concerned, right? We were kind of worried about him because we didn't know how he was going to deal with that. So in an effort to relieve his pain, and because that's painful because all that liquid starts pressuring in there, so he felt a lot of pressure and he had a lot of trouble sleeping and he licked a lot. So anyway, to make a long story short about his eye, his eye was removed. So they stitched him up. We brought him home, and he started the process of getting better, and sort of, his stitches were removed, and he was better. Fast forward maybe 3 years after that, his left eye also was shiny before, but it wasn't as bad as this one. So we were concerned. We were like, oh my goodness, he's going to lose his sight completely. So we didn't really think about what we were going to do. So again, we went to the vet. But by this point, Symba he's already blind. He was kind of blind before we removed his eye. So now he is really literally blind. So his left eye it was bulging and it was cloudy. So we said, okay, we bought him some medicine and we put drops in his eye. And so it looked like he was getting a little better. But as the weeks and the months went by, his eye started getting red on the inside and it started bulging a lot. So the vet told us that we really should consider removing his last eye. So my family and I looked at each other and were like, oh my goodness, we have to remove his other eye. So if you really think about that thought of having to remove his other eye, then that means that he's going to be really completely blind. And as a human being, you think of, oh, poor dog or poor cat, or so that automatically enters into your mind. You're like, oh my goodness, he's not going to have his eyes. However, the vet told us that in her experience, there have been dog owners that have removed both of the eyes on a dog, and in reality, that helps them feel better because they no longer have that pressure of having the big bulging pressure eye. So we scheduled the surgery and we were extremely concerned because that thought of him, our little dog not having both eyes was kind of frightening because we were like, oh my goodness, he's not going to have his eyes. But I want to backtrack a little bit because I should have talked a little bit about the time he had one of his eyes removed. And so he got better in about a week. And he was just normal. He was playing around. He was growling a little bit. He was playing with his toys. So with one eye, he seemed to just act normal. He wasn't hurting. Maybe he bumped into the walls a little bit here and there, but it wasn't anything concerning. So let's fast forward to now. So this happened around a couple months ago. So we had his eye removed, the last one. So now he has no eyes. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because sometimes in our own lives, sometimes we complain about things, right? We like, oh, life is just terrible and I can't deal with it, or I have problems, I have this, I have that, and oh my goodness, why me? Why am I going through all these things? So Symba serves sort of like an inspiration to change our perspective, because here we have a little dog that doesn't have eyes, yet he goes on with his day like a normal dog. He eats, he goes to the bathroom, he walks. He's not as mobile as he used to be, but he still gets around, and he wags his tail. Sometimes when we get home or when I come home for lunch, he wags his tail. He starts smelling. He starts being happy. So from our perspective, sometimes we have to be grateful and appreciate the things that we have. For me, myself, I have both of my eyes, my arms, my hands. Everything is normal. So here I look at our little dog, and he doesn't have eyesight and he can't see anything. Yet he goes about his day just like a normal, regular dog. So to me, I've always said that nature has been my best teacher. And Symba is nature. He's an animal. He just plugs along like a little engine that could every day, being a survivor, staying alive despite him not having his eyes. So what is the lesson that we can learn from that is that sometimes we have to be grateful and show gratitude for what we have, because somebody else somewhere in the world is probably experiencing something worse than you are, or me. I often think of some of my students at school. Sometimes their lives away from school are challenging at home. Poverty, they don't have enough food to eat. They don't have, their parents probably don't have cars, so they can't afford appropriate housing. So, and then there's a lot of people that have everything, and yet we complain that life isn't fair because we didn't get this or we didn't get that. There's a quote, I can't remember who said this, but I will leave you with this quote. It said, we know, all of us humans, we know that it takes very little to be happy, yet we need a lot of experience to realize that. So thank you so much for listening today, and I hope my story sort of makes you look at life in a different perspective. When you feel that things aren't going right for you, or you feel that life has dealt you a losing hand, it's not the cards that you get. It's how you manage to play the game or survive with the cards that you are given. So thank you so much for listening today, and I hope you sort of reflect and think about your life, how sometimes when you think things are going terribly, think of something else. Think of somebody else who might be in a worse position than you are. I think of Symba because Symba just survives every day with no eyes. He wiggles his tail and he's happy.